Hey everybody, it's your boy John coming at you with another review, probably one you didn't expect. Superman, Funeral for a Friend. This is the second graphic novel in this Superman series, which started with the death of Superman, which we reviewed a couple weeks ago. I'll have that link in the description below so you can go check that out. And there's an interconnecting cover on the spine where it makes this like bloody S for the Superman. And as you see, I got it at Half Price Books. I got all these at Half Price Books pretty cheap, which is why I'm reading them. I was just curious and saw for the price. I was like, meh, might as well. And this is The World Without a Superman. So it goes through Action Comics 685 to 686, Adventures Superman 498 to 500, Justice League 70, Legacy of Superman #1, Supergirl and Team Luthor Special #1, Superman 76 to 77, and Superman Man of Steel 21 and 22. There we go. And as you see, it's got superheroes walking around with Superman's casket. And that's pretty much this entire book. Even though it's pretty thick, it's got 360-something pages. All of this is pretty much reacting to the death of Superman and just showing the reaction. So we have this one that takes place right after with Doomsday's body right there. He tries to like mouth-to-mouth resuscitate Superman, and they send Doomsday's body out. Keeps going. We just get lots of reactions to Superman's death. Lots of heroes crying. We get all the classic JLA shows up. There's a big spread of that. All right, stuff. And then Supergirl kind of takes over and helps some things out. There's a conspiracy going on where the government's trying to get a hold of Superman's body. Somebody takes it. They're going to try to clone Superman's body. And Supergirl goes and fights for things. That's actually a pretty interesting storyline. This issue here is really just more reactions. We got the procession, the funeral. And the story develops really slowly with this like whole Superman clone thing. There's some background. We have the Clintons in here. Very silly. Just all reacting to Superman's death, and there's just too many issues of it, if I'm frank. It all goes very, very, very slowly through these reactions, and they're eminently forgettable issues because of that. The Lex Luthor Supergirl storyline is actually pretty interesting. Lois bonds with Jonathan Kent, Superman's father, because they're kind of taking care of her. But Supergirl's like looking for the tomb. She goes in the tomb. The body's gone. Finds it because she has to travel underground. Finds out that people are stealing it. And the Supergirl is pretty much the only action in this entire deal. Oh, I guess there's this Guardian character who shows up for a little bit. And there's some characters who are trying to just fill Superman's shoes as they figure things out. You know, the art's pretty standard fare for the early 90s. And the storylines, like I said, are a little slow. The Legacy of Superman really develops this storyline a little bit more, and there's just not a lot to it. That's why I'm kind of almost repeating myself. There's just not a ton to the stories in this. And it's like they were just trying to milk that Death of Superman issue for as long as they possibly could, create a giant crossover through all of these stories. When I was a kid, it seemed like this lasted forever, but I guess it only lasted a couple of months. I guess when you're a kid, a couple of months is forever. And we go through here. So this is the end. Finally, the end. Funeral for a Friend 8. They spent 8 issues developing this. We get some Lex Luthor nip. That's a pretty epic nipple that Lex Luthor has here. And the Lex Luthor storyline is actually more interesting than probably anything else in here. He beats up a trainer in here, and it just shows his ruthlessness while he's putting on a better front for Supergirl throughout this. And eventually he has a gal killed. And this one actually has a little bit of personal character development, like a little tugging of the heartstrings. Jonathan Kent is dying as well. Oh no, he can't take the stress. What's going to happen? Of course, like when this was coming out, this was a lot more interesting. And I actually read a couple of these as a kid. I didn't have all of them because I couldn't afford to buy every single issue of these crossovers when I was a kid. It's kind of nice to read them all together. But Kent dying, you just didn't know whether they were going to actually have them come back at that point. You didn't know that, this is going to be comics and they're all always going to come back like we've got now. Roger Stern wrote this Supergirl and Team Luthor issue. Oh my gosh, I'm like that other guy who used to have the name. I've been pretty sick the last couple weeks. Sorry about that. And there's actually some good action in this one as Supergirl takes care of business. Lex Luthor actually gets in a suit and jumps into action. So we have a lot of fun here. Lex is trying to get a authorized super team under his control, official through the city, to try to replace Superman. And the city is kind of skeptical about it, of course. So he goes out and does some stuff. Has to take care of some business. It's an extra long storyline, but it's pretty fun. Now it culminates in. Yeah, this is probably the most fun issue out of this whole deal. Roger Stern's usually pretty good. Culminates with the Adventures of Superman 500, which I definitely remember having this issue. This cover is an excellent cover with the all green. It really pops with Superman in front. You see lots of bad guys in the back and Superman defending Jonathan Kent. Now, as I've grown older, I hate this kind of storyline where it's a person's hallucinations or daydreams or whatever as they're dying or hooked up to a video game or whatever it is, and they have to like come out of the scenario in their hallucinating mind in order to survive. And science fiction TV shows really have overdone this so many times that it's like obnoxious. But as a kid, I actually liked this because you got to see Superman kind of interacting with his father, and it seemed like Superman was actually there while that's happening. Sort of in this like afterlife spirit realm. And I appreciated like the look into heaven and all that, and the look into hell. As it turns out, Jonathan Kent kind of descends into this like eternity. Very cool art right here. I love this sort of cosmic art that reminds me of like the Jim Starlin stuff from Marvel, of course. And so this was a little bit more memorable of an issue for me than the other reactions to Superman's death, mainly because I had it. I probably read this a few times. It always unnerved me that these little robed figures became really creepy aliens. As a kid, that scared me. And this was pretty fun as a kid. It doesn't quite hold up, like I said, just because this sort of storyline is pretty cliche, to read as an adult. But it was fun as a kid, and Kent comes out of it, and we end with "The tomb is empty" to complete the Superman sort of like Christian allegory there, where he died and rose again. They've been alluding to his tomb being empty and gone for a while because like people were stealing his body and things like that. But at this point, the tomb is just empty, and nobody knows what's happening, and it's labeled "The Beginning," of course. So we've had, I guess, at this point in comics history, we had 2 months of Superman's death. And people mourning it around the world, and it, made the news and all that. I don't know how they managed to make that happen, but they did. And so this became quite an event that sold a lot. And here's some of the covers for various graphic novels that came after this as extras. And that's it. Very quick to read because this is a skimmable volume. You can get the pieces of them trying to get that Superman clone, and then you can read the Supergirl stuff and kind of skip most of it. It was okay, so I guess it's like a 5 or 6 out of 10. The art, is fine, and I really liked that cosmic stuff at the end of that action or Adventures of Superman 500. But beyond that, eminently forgettable stuff. I really didn't enjoy this as much as I did the first volume. The first volume was very decompressed also, with just that like last issue of the death of Superman being full splash pages the entire time. There wasn't a ton to that issue, but there wasn't a ton to this other than a bunch of reactions either. Now I hear it gets a little bit better, so we'll check that out next time in the 3rd volume of this and see how it goes. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you like my reviews. If you don't like my reviews, tell me. Leave a comment down below and say, this is the best book of all time, and I'm wrong for some reason. I don't know. If you have bad taste, do that. Haha. All right, and I will talk to you guys soon.